Have you ever heard of the Aegean Sea? It's that beautiful, sparkling blue stretch of water between Greece and Turkey. But did you know its name comes from a story of epic heroism, tragic love, and a terrible, heartbreaking mistake? This is the story of Theseus, the Minotaur, and the forgotten promise that stained the sea with a father's grief. Our tale begins in Athens, a city living under a dark cloud. Years earlier, the son of King Minos of Crete had been killed in Athens. Enraged, Minos waged a war he swiftly won. His price for peace was brutal. Every 9 years, Athens had to send 7 of its finest young men and 7 of its most beautiful maidens to Crete. There, they would be sacrificed to a monstrous creature, the Minotaur. This beast was a terrifying sight, with the body of a man and the head of a bull. It was born of a curse, a symbol of shame for King Minos, who imprisoned it deep within an inescapable maze called the Labyrinth. For 2 cycles, Athens had paid this bloody price. The city was filled with sorrow, its people living in fear of the day the Cretan ship with its black sails would appear on the horizon. As the 3rd tribute approached, a young hero emerged. This was Theseus, the son of King Aegeus of Athens. He was strong, brave, and his heart ached for his people. He couldn't bear to watch another group of Athenian youth be sent to their deaths. So he made a bold declaration. He would volunteer as one of the tributes. He wasn't going to be a victim, though. He was going to be a monster slayer. He would enter the labyrinth, kill the Minotaur, and end the tribute forever. His father, King Aegeus, was horrified. He begged Theseus not to go, not to throw his life away. But Theseus was determined. Seeing his son's resolve, Aegeus finally agreed, but with one condition. The ship that takes you to Crete has black sails, a symbol of mourning, he said. If you succeed, if you return to me alive, you must take down those black sails and raise white ones. Every day I will stand on the cliffs and watch for your ship. The white sails will be the signal that my son is safe. Theseus promised he would not forget. With a heavy heart, he boarded the ship of doom and sailed for Crete. When the Athenian tributes arrived in Crete, they were paraded before the royal court. Among the onlookers was Ariadne, the daughter of King Minos. As her eyes fell upon Theseus, she was immediately captivated. He stood tall and defiant, unlike the other terrified tributes. She saw not just a victim, but a hero. In that moment, she fell deeply in love and knew she couldn't let him die. That night, Ariadne secretly went to Theseus. She knew the labyrinth was designed to be impossible to escape. Even if he managed to kill her half-brother, the Minotaur, he would be lost forever in its twisting corridors. "I will help you," she whispered, "but you must promise to take me with you, away from this cursed island, and make me your wife in Athens." Theseus, seeing the sincerity in her eyes and knowing he needed her help, readily agreed. Ariadne then gave him 2 gifts. The first was a sword, to fight the beast. The second was something far more clever, a simple ball of thread. As you enter the labyrinth, she instructed, tie one end of this thread to the entrance. Unwind it as you go deeper. When you have killed the Minotaur, you can simply follow the thread back to find your way out. The next day, the tributes were led to the entrance of the labyrinth. The heavy stone doors groaned open, revealing a dark, foreboding passageway. Theseus, armed with his sword and Ariadne's thread, was the first to step inside. He tied the thread securely to the doorpost and, with his heart pounding, plunged into the darkness. The labyrinth was a terrifying place. The air was thick with the stench of decay and a sense of ancient dread. The corridors twisted and turned, leading to dead ends and confusing intersections. Echoes played tricks on his mind, making him think the beast was just around every corner. But Theseus held the thread tightly, his lifeline in the disorienting maze. He followed the chilling sounds of the creature, a low, guttural roar that grew louder and louder. Finally, he reached the center of the labyrinth, and there it was, the Minotaur. It was larger and more fearsome than he had ever imagined. It bellowed with rage upon seeing him, its powerful hooves stamping the ground. The beast charged, and a desperate battle began. The Minotaur was immensely strong, but Theseus was quick and agile. He dodged the creature's horns and swung his sword, the clash of steel echoing through the maze. The fight was brutal, a dance of death in the heart of the labyrinth. But in the end, the hero's courage and skill won out. With a final, mighty thrust, Theseus drove his sword into the Minotaur's heart. The monster let out one last, shuddering roar and collapsed dead. Exhausted but triumphant, Theseus stood over the fallen beast. The curse was broken. Now he had to get out. He turned and found the thread, his small, faithful guide in the darkness. Carefully, he followed it back, winding his way through the passages until he saw a sliver of daylight. He emerged from the labyrinth, blinking in the sun, a hero. He quickly found the other Athenian tributes, who were hiding in terror. Together, they raced to the harbor, where Ariadne was waiting. True to her word, she had prepared their escape. They boarded their ship and, under the cover of night, slipped out of the Cretan harbor, leaving King Minos to discover his dead monster and his missing daughter. They sailed towards Athens, their hearts full of joy and relief. They stopped on the island of Naxos to rest and celebrate their victory. Theseus and Ariadne were in love, dreaming of their new life together in Athens. But the gods had other plans. That night, as Ariadne slept, the god of wine and revelry, Dionysus, appeared to Theseus in a dream. Dionysus declared that Ariadne was destined to be his own bride, and he commanded Theseus to leave her behind on the island. Theseus was devastated. He loved Ariadne, the woman who had saved his life. But who was he to defy a god? With a heart torn apart by grief and fear, he made an agonizing choice. Before dawn, he woke his crew and they set sail, abandoning the sleeping princess on the shores of Naxos. When Ariadne awoke, she found herself alone, her love and her dreams shattered. She wept in despair until Dionysus appeared to comfort her and make her his immortal wife. Theseus, meanwhile, was completely consumed by his own sorrow and guilt over leaving Ariadne. His mind was in a fog of turmoil. He had succeeded in his quest. He was returning a hero, but the joy was gone, replaced by a profound sense of loss. In his anguish, he completely forgot the promise he had made to his father. He forgot about the sails. Back in Athens, King Aegeus had been keeping his vigil. Every single day he climbed the high cliffs overlooking the sea, his old eyes scanning the horizon for his son's ship. He prayed for the sight of white sails, the signal of his son's safe return. Finally, a ship appeared in the distance. It was Theseus's ship. Aegeus strained to see, his heart pounding with a mix of hope and fear. As the ship drew closer, his hope turned to black despair. The sails were black. The black sails of mourning. To Aegeus, it could only mean one thing. His beloved son was dead, another victim of the Minotaur. Overcome by a grief so immense he could not bear it, the old king threw himself from the cliffs into the churning water below. Moments later, Theseus's ship arrived at the port. He was greeted not with cheers, but with cries of horror. He learned of his father's fate and looked up at his ship's mast. The black sails billowed in the wind. The full weight of his mistake crashed down upon him. He had returned a triumphant hero, the savior of Athens, but his forgetfulness, his single tragic failure, had cost him his father. Theseus became the great king of Athens, but his reign began not with celebration, but with tragedy. And from that day forward, the sea that had claimed his father's life was named in his honor, the Aegean Sea. It remains a beautiful, timeless reminder of a hero's victory, a father's love, and the devastating consequences of a promise forgotten in a moment of sorrow. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into Greek mythology, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories from the ancient world. See you next time.